I'm Vin.
I'm Sori.
If you would like to get your song reviewed, dear listener, there's the filthy capitalist option. As Sori says, $125 gets you straight to the head of the line. You don't have to be a part of the alliance. You don't have to be part of the group.
Wait a minute.
And the biggest thing is you don't have to wait. You hop, skip, and jump right in front of everybody. $125 gets you there. You do that 3 times, and you get mashed down to the $75 rate for perpetuity.
Yes!
Also, there is a band review option. So if you've got a band and you're trying to get your band some exposure, hit me up at insori@gmail.com, and I'll show you the details about how to pull that off.
You can also jump on Patreon, and there is a option on the tiers to be able to get your band reviewed. Obviously, we can't lie to you, so we can't guarantee a positive review. Get what you get.
It's just rubbish.
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 That's British for garbage.
My favorite is the community option. $1 at the gate gets you in at Patreon. You get to join an alliance. The alliance joins their points together, and that helps determine what songs that we do.
The alliances hang out on Discord.
Message me on Patreon to get the link.
And they do all kinds of other cool things. They do Minecraft, Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah. It's really a community within the community. Anybody can go in the village, facebook.com/Vin and Sori. There's 160,000+ people on the channel. What's cool about the Discord is that it offers a real opportunity for community connection, friendship, that type of thing.
And it's on Discord, so if you're not a Facebook person, it's for you.
You start off at $1.
Right.
Plus you get exclusives. Sori and I are working on a song. So the first 15 seconds of that was on Patreon. Also, at $15 tier and above, when we actually debut the video, they're going to be there live with us. There you are, dear listener.
Buy our merch.
Buy merch indeed. A child shall lead them.
To buy our merch.
Yes, dear listener. Yes, dear listener. Yes, dear listener. As you can see in the background,
Ta-da!
we've got a band by the name of
Thermite Burns.
Thermite Burns is the name of the band. From the album Forcing Starlight, the name of this song is called KHurt. Okay? KHurt is the name of the song. And we're going to be checking it out. This is
Link is in the description of the video.
This is an unsigned hype guy. This is the guy that, I think we're in a one-man band situation.
Band.
Did he have a little blurb thingamajiggy?
Just a little bit. He says, it's a one-dude project and each release is a work in progress. Almost. As in, this one is way better than the last one, but there are things I didn't figure out until the end. So those things have to get utilized on the next one. And all of this regarding mixing, LOL.
I mean, honestly, that's how I do music too. And that's why it takes so long, dear listener, for our shit to come out. Go ahead.
He said, OMG, I still don't know how to master. Nothing I've put out so far is even mastered. But I figure if it's been created, it deserves a chance to get out there and live.
Deserves to be heard. All right. My mic?
It's back.
Did you kill my mic?
All right, KHurt for the band Thermite Burns.
Let's do it.
Link is in the description if you want to see more.
This time. But maybe next time. Next time under different stars from a different Super Collider's Mandela effect. Maybe next time you'll let me be the one to try and make you smile.
Sounds like a girl. is that Sunshine song? You make me happy. That's got to be a relationship song. Then. No?
I think you're probably right.
What do you mean?
I think you're probably right. So, because he starts out with, let my sins build my character, seminal building blocks of my existence, stranded outside the gates of heaven, looking in, blood on my hands, degenerate stains mark my soul. I can see the purity so clear through the lost, hate-filled eyes. So I don't know if... he said, let my sins build my character. I thought that was an interesting line.
That's an interesting introductory phrase, for sure. How did you look at that?
Well, I looked at it as, you know, like when people try to find something positive about a bad situation?
Yes.
So it's like, all right, well, you've done all these horrible, sinful things. And so if you can look at it as, well, they're building your character, then it's not so horrible.
It's not as bad.
Yeah. Although I don't think that our sins build our character. I think sins ruin our character. But facing those sins or creating new paths where you don't continue on in those sins is a way that you build your character.
Yeah, but a lot of that depends on how you're using that term. Like, I don't know if he's using that term literally or if he's using it ironically. You know what I'm saying? And it's interesting because that's a pretty dangerous thing to say, especially for us as Christians, about sin building character. I'm not certain that's completely an unbiblical idea. I just think it's probably not something that a lot of people talk about because out of fear of how that concept would be abused. So I think, for example, like Peter, it was sinful for Peter to deny Christ, but it was necessary for him to understand that he was not as strong as he thought he was. And so his sin built in the character of humility.
Well, yeah, but if he would have carried on in it and wouldn't have changed his mind about it, would have just kept on doing that same sin of denying Christ. That's why I'm saying I think it's the pulling away from it that changes you.
Yeah, but if you don't have the situation, if Peter never had that situation, then he would have walked around in his delusion. So
100%, I agree. Yeah,
so
because he said, "I would never."
Yeah, there is a sense in which sin builds character. It's just, I just don't think that Christians are going to be comfortable with that kind of terminology. You know what I'm saying? Especially Christians like you, for example. You don't like that idea, but I mean, to me, it's like, because Jesus said, I prayed for you that your faith not fail. He didn't say that you not fail, and he could have prayed for Simon never to fail, but he didn't pray for that. He prayed for his faith not to fail. So it looks to me like Jesus was fine with letting Peter deny him in sin if it would build in the better character of humility, which, again, is a very dangerous thing to say, but a very insightful thing for the purposes of this song. Because I agree with you in the sense that could be abused. Like, obviously, it could be abused. But but that's never stopped God before.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's going to be abused. I'm saying that the sin itself doesn't build the character. It weakens your character. But it's when you have to face things about yourself or the sins. Like, for instance, Peter, he denied Christ. That, to me, is the sinful stuff that he was doing. But he then faces it and comes around. You know what I mean? Like, and I think it's in that point. Like, if you do something wrong and then you go and you make it right, like, it's in those points that we're building
How's that
character.
different from what he's saying, though?
I don't think it's necessarily different.
Let my sins build my character, seminal buildings blocks of my existence. Stranded outside the gates of heaven, looking in. Blood on my hands, degenerate stains mark my soul. I can see the purity so clear through lost, hate-filled eyes. He could see the purity clearly through lost, hate-filled eyes. Is he talking about his own eyes or the eyes of the people that are judging him?
Oh. I thought he was talking about his own eyes looking out on her.
The other thing too is building character in the most literal sense is a neutral term. When we say build character, most of us are translating that as something good. Like, oh, it's building character, and we just assume that's good. But you could build
Bad character.
You could build bad character, right? So
That's true.
It could also be saying, let my sins build my character, as in, let my sins be the definition of who I am as a person.
Oh my gosh.
Right? Which would fit pretty nicely with the lyricism, because the lyrics are saying he's degenerate, it's marked on his soul, and he's standing outside of heaven as an outsider looking in, that type of thing. Which, that's a very interesting concept. I was watching this show, and it was about the afterlife, and all these people were going into this place, and you could tell in the universe of the show, like, it was the good place. And they had this guy, but the guy was horrible. He was a terrible person. And so they're like, hey, you coming along? And the guy's like, nah. And they're like, come on. He's like, nah. And I thought that was a very powerful scene, because I was like, there are people that would say no, not because they don't want to go to the nice place, but because they're still so fucked up about, their sins. And so that feeling of being on the outside looking in is that's a tough experience. And if you've grown up as a Christian your whole life, and again, I don't think this is about God per se as much as I think it's about a relationship. Because of we got to talk about that. Like, you're my sunshine, my only sunshine, make me happy. Like, and then like the song stopped kind of like in the middle, and it got to like this nice like Oasis little. Yeah. And then he was playing that out for the rest of the song. I thought that was crazy, because Jay-Z did that with It's a Hard Knock Life. So Jay-Z had this song, and it was like Orphan Annie or something. Yeah, it was Orphan Annie. So he was sick. So he's saying all this gangster shit in the verses, and then you have a bunch of kids singing It's a Hard Knock Life. Like, so like that juxtaposition was crazy. Like, yo, this guy's saying a bunch of gangster shit, and this is kind of like that. Like, it's this real like first wave black metal type vocal style.
Yeah.
Where I know you were talking about mixing, but like that's kind of like black metal mixing anyway, right? Like,
yeah,
especially like, was it Death? I forgot the name of the band, but like the one that did Freezing Moon. Who did Freezing Moon? What's the name of that band? That's kind of like in that tradition, right? Like Mayhem. Yeah. Right. Like that was like this era. It's like this era black metal, that era of black metal, but then it's like got this. You're in my sunshine, my only sunshine. I thought that juxtaposition was crazy. It reminded me of what Jay-Z was doing.
I thought lyrically, it was the most interesting. I agree. I thought that it was a relationship thing. He said, I can see it all as you walk away. Sin you drug through my hair. As I cry at my creator's failure. Harbinger of darkness. Once shown love by the light. Remove lights from my memory. from my
Remove
existence.
light's memory from my existence. Demon seed, guide my hands once more.
Right.
So,
Demon seed, guide my hands once more. This husk that lays at my feet I carved out of the offending memory, gutted and removed from reality. The blade carved them from beneath the skin, expanding round, ripped through to expel the memory's last trace. I fear, even with this cathartic release, these memories fail to be laid to rest. So, at the beginning, he's talking about the sins that would build his character, and then at the end, he's talking about, like, just trying to dig out those memories so he can relieve himself of the burden of the guilt or whatever is, I think, going on here. My assumption is that this is a failed relationship, and that's kind of the angle that
failed relationship, you say?
Yeah, that's kind of the way that I'm looking at it. When he said I can see the purity so clear through lost, hate-filled eyes, I assumed that was when he was in the relationship, maybe through lost, hate-filled eyes. I don't know if, like, there was a certain the sins that he's talking about, the demeanor, everything, but now as she's walking away, he can see the purity so clear. Like you can, there are two ways of looking at most things. There's at least two ways of looking at it. So, like, for instance, sometimes here's one. You're driving in traffic and somebody cuts you off and you feel really frustrated because you're like, wow, as if that person just did that. And you think they're completely 100% wrong. They almost got me in an accident by just cutting me off like that. But then, you zoom into that vehicle and you hear the conversation that's going on, and the husband is talking to the wife, and apparently their 8-year-old got hit by a car. He's at the hospital. They're rushing over there. And so now it makes sense. Like, you have no reason to be upset about it. So, like, sometimes when we don't know exactly what's going on in a given situation, we make certain judgments or have certain feelings about it, but those might not be accurate or true. And so I guess for me, like, this song was sort of like, it sounded, I thought maybe he was saying his perspective of the relationship, like he had his sins and his different stuff, like, and how he felt or how the relationship was going. But then as she's going away, it becomes really clear to him what was actually going on.
I wonder if it was religion that got between them.
Could be.
It says, harbinger of darkness, once shown love by the light, remove light's memory from my existence, demon seed. So he was once shown love or whatever, but now he's a demon seed. So I don't know if, like, maybe religion got between the two of them. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so now he's a demon seed because, or maybe that's how he was perceived, maybe by religion. You know how religious people are. This husk that lays at my feet, I carved out the offending memory, gutted it. Maybe he's talking about himself.
Oh, I thought it was literally like there was a memory. Maybe it's the memory of her or the memory of their last whatever, or you know what I mean? Like something gutted and removed from reality. The blade carved them from beneath the skin. Trying to expel memory's last trace.
Yeah, I think, like, it's too hurtful to keep thinking about her or whatever. It looks like. And so he had to do that to himself in order to continue moving on without the relationship type thing, maybe. That's a pretty crazy...
That's kind of what it sounded like to me.
That's a pretty graphic way of describing that, if that's right.
Yeah.
Right? Like, this husk that lays at my feet, I carved out the offending memory, gutted and removed from reality. The blade carved them from beneath the skin. Did this dude... Who is this guy? He got some crazy... That's some crazy visuals right there.
I think that's the sort of interesting thing, is that we have this concept of wanting to be able to, like, gut things out of our memory or forget things completely, so that way we don't have to face the reality of those things, and I don't know, I would just say, let my sins build my character, he said. And I think there's nothing that can be done with sins except to just bring it to Jesus, because there's sins, you're saying sins can build your character. I mean, I do see how, like, the outgrowth from it can build something, yeah. For positive or negative. You're going to say something?
Well, he talks about blood on his hands at the beginning. And I don't know what necessarily that means.
Degenerate stains mark my soul.
Yeah, that's the thing, is that when you... it's a tough balance that religious people have to strike. On the one hand, you've got God, and there is a sort of right and wrong, and then on the other time, it's like, yeah, but you got flawed human beings, and can we accept each other with our flaws? This conversation we have a lot. Because, like, it doesn't matter. Like, everybody's a demon seed at some level, if the Bible is right, relative to, I mean, the Bible says that we were by nature children of wrath, which would be very, very close to the concept of demon seed. And so it's like, somehow that concept of God, where he was at, has something to do with losing this person, it looks like. And then what he had to do to basically move on without her, maybe. I hopefully this guy responds in the... But yeah, like, lyrically, just that line where he was talking about, like, carving inside of himself and all that, like... It's a very... Like, I remember, like, being... Like, when I got the letter from Shorty and it was, like, the divorce was final. It's like, you're divorced, you're not married anymore. And I remember looking at it and I just remember being like... Yeah, there's a whole part of my, like, being that just got carved out of me. And, like, obviously, like, we were not... I mean, she was in a different state for, like, a year before that letter came in. But it was just, like, the finality of it was pretty crazy. It was like, yo, it's over with. Like, it's literally over with. Like, it's never going to happen again. Like, damn. So, but I might just be... reading that whole thing into that situation, but that's what popped in my head when I saw those lines. Like, this dude knows. He knows. Expanding ground tip through to expel the memory's last trace. I fear even with this cathartic release, these memories fail to be laid to rest. Yeah, because I don't know whether he was relying on self-harm as a way of dealing with that stress and that pain. And then, but at the end, he says, I fear even with the cathartic release, these memories fail to be laid to rest, which is like, I don't judge anybody for the self-harm thing if that's what he's talking about, because I did it myself. So obviously you can't judge anybody for something you did yourself. But I can agree here that it's not going to take you where you want it to take you. And it's not going to do for you what you want it to do. It gives you that distraction, but everything it gets progressively worse after that. You know, it's like, it's interesting. Like, you watch how people deal with addiction relative to substances and things like that, but when it comes to self-harm, like, there seems to be a different track. Yeah. Which is interesting, because with addiction, it is self-harm, but a lot of it's happening internally, you know, for months or years before you see the external ramifications, whereas people who do that, like, you see the physical ramifications immediately, the external ramifications are there immediately, and so it's weird. It almost gets put in a different box than, you know, somebody who's constantly going to alcohol. You say, oh, you're an alcohol addict. Like, I wonder what would happen if, like, the addiction sort of mentality was applied to self-harmers. Because when I was at the hospital, the self-harmers got treated differently than the addicts were treated. Really? Yeah, and it's not like addiction. It's not like a better or worse thing, but it was just like the way people approached it was just different.
In what way?
Well, like, for an addict, it was like, well, let's look at why you're addicted and blah, 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 and these are the things that can get you, and you'll always be an addict in the sense that you'll have to be diligent about watching this for the rest of your life. Whereas this thing was kind of like, it was more like, stop doing this, we want to get you to stop doing this, we want to get you DBT, dialectical behavioral therapy, where, like, you occupy your hands doing other things, right? Like, on the alcohol side, it's not like, oh, drink a Pepsi instead of, you see what I'm saying? Like, the way that it gets addressed is different. And on top of that, there is the moral side of it too, whereas it's almost like if you're an alcoholic, like, that's bad. Like, look, you'll hear a lot of them talk about, I did this to my family, I did that to my family, and it's like, it's good, and that's part of the release. But if you're a self-harmer, there isn't any of that. There isn't any of, well, you've hurt your family or anything like that, because, like, you're it's so immediate, the cut is so immediate that you're not encouraged to do that. But I think, you know, like, so if they would combine those strategies, I think it would be a big thing for everybody, I think. This definitely, when he was talking about mixing and things like that, I definitely saw where he's coming from. I was like, man, we gotta get it. Like, I would like to hear, like, what a real bigger producer would have done with the mixing and the mastering of this. But at the same time, I'm like, yeah, but this was kind of like the like true cult mayhem type black metal vocalization. I'm not sure like how more lo-fi you could be. You know, they did that on purpose back in the day. So I mean, I don't know. Maybe it needs more. You know, go ahead.
When he got to the guitar and doing the my sunshine one, that was reminding me
That
of like
part, yeah.
youth group being around the fire pit with the guitars. It just kind of had that. It kind of had that sound. Of course, that song was done once in a while when we were in that situation. I think that maybe that was his song for her, and so he starts kind of ending out with that one.
That's a pretty. Hey, lady.
Ian, maybe
or gentlemen, if you're out there listening, give him another chance.
Maybe it's one of those things where, because the vocal style of the song was like really like almost like throaty, like demonic-y sort of sounding.
100%.
And then there was like more of the cleaner, like "You Are My Sunshine" vocal. So maybe he was also trying to show that like she was like a positive influence on him to, you know, like she's you know, civilized him in a way.
Yeah, I can rock with that. 7.5 for me.
This is an even 5 for me.
There you are. We want to hear more from you, sir.
All right, you guys, link is in the description of this video.
Description.
Because there's more songs on his Bandcamp if you want to check out more of what he has.
Yeah, the album is called
Forcing Starlight.
Forcing Starlight, I think.
Yeah.
Thermite Burns is the name of the band, but the album is called Forcing Starlight. There's like, how many tracks are on this joint?
I'd have to back out. I think it was 9, but right there, 9.
There's about 9 songs on that joint. Real true cult black metal. We out of here. Vin out.
Sori out.
Gone.